Let's review all of the numbers. Welcome to the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Petty School Arithmetic program. In this lesson, we'll continue our study of numbers and counting, going all the way up to 99. Let's review all of the numbers we've learned so far. Point to the numbers and count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. In this lesson, we're going to learn to count from 20 all the way up to 99. Before we go on in this lesson, let's remind ourselves of what the number 20 means. The number 20 is written 20. The 2 tells us how many sets of 10 there are. There are 2 sets of 10. The 0 tells us that there are 0 units more. The number 20 means 2 sets of 10 and 0 units more. How will we make the next numbers? What comes after 20? Remember, the good news is that you already know all of the numbers. So to learn to count from 20 up to 99, you don't need to learn any new numbers. We simply need to learn how to use these numbers to express different quantities all the way up to 99. And that's what we're going to learn in this lesson. If you look on the left, you can see that we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 1 penny more. Do you see the 1 penny more? If we have 2 sets of 10, we have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 and 1 more, we have 21. 21 is written 2-1. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10, and the 1 tells us we have 1 unit more, 21. Here you can see we have 2 sets of 10 and 2 pennies more. Can you see the 2 pennies more? If we had just 2 sets of 10, we would have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 and 2 more, we have 22. 22 is written 2-2. The first 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10. The second 2 tells us we have 2 units more, 22. On the left, you can see we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 3 pennies more. Can you count the 3 pennies more? If we had 2 sets of 10 pennies, we would have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 3 more, we have 23. The number 23 is written 2-3. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10, and the 3 tells us we have 3 units more, 23. Here we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 4 pennies more. Can you count the 4 pennies more? If we had 2 sets of 10 pennies, we would have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 4 pennies more, we have 24. 24 is written 2, 4. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10, and the 4 tells us there are 4 units more. 24. Here we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 5 pennies more. Count the 5 pennies more. If we had just 2 sets of 10 pennies, we would have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 5 pennies more, we'll have 25. The number 25 is written with a 2 and a 5. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10, and the 5 tells us we have 5 units left over. 25. Here we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 6 pennies more. Count the 6 pennies more. If we had 2 sets of 10 pennies, we would have 20. If we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 6 pennies more, we have 26. 26 is written with a 2 and a 6. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10. The 6 tells us there are 6 units more. 26. Here we have 2 sets of 10 pennies. And how many more? Count the pennies that we have more than 2 sets of 10. There are 7 pennies more. When we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 7 more, we have the number 27. The number 27 is written with a 2 and a 7. The 2 tells us there are 2 sets of 10. The 7 tells us there are 7 units more. 27. Here we have 2 sets of 10 pennies and 8 pennies more. When we have 2 sets of 10 and 8 more, we have the number 28. 28 is written with a 2 and an 8. The 2 tells us we have 2 sets of 10. The 8 tells us we have 8 units more. 28. If you look carefully at the pennies on the left, you'll see that we have 2 sets of 10 and almost another set of 10. We have 2 sets of 10 and 9 more. This is the number 29. The number 29 is written 2-9. The 2 tells us that there are 2 sets of 10, and the 9 tells us there are 9 units more. 29. Here you can see that we have 3 sets of 10. When we have 3 sets of 10, we have the number 30. 30. 30 is written with a 3 and a 0. The 3 tells us there are 3 sets of 10. The 0 tells us there are 0 units more. 30. 30. We've already learned that to count above 20, we simply add the number of units to 20. 21, 22, 23, and so on, up to 29. After 30, we do the same thing. Let's count these numbers together. Point to the number 31. You can see it's written with a 3 and a 1. We'll count them together. 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. After 39, we have 4 sets of 10. When we have 4 sets of 10, we have the number 40. 40. 40 is written with a 4 and a 0. The 4 tells us we have 4 sets of 10. The 0 tells us we have 0 units more. 40. 40. To count from the number 40, we simply add the number of units. Let's count these numbers together. Point to the number 41. You can see it written with a 4 and a 1 at the top. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49. The number 49 tells us that there are 4 sets of 10 and 9 units more. After 49, we'll have 5 sets of 10. When we have 5 sets of 10, we have the number 50. 50. 50 is written with a 5 and a 0. The 5 tells us that there are 5 sets of 10. The 0 tells us there are 0 units more. 5 sets of 10 is 50. Once again, to count from 50, we simply add the number of units. We'll count these together. Point to the number 51 on the top. It's written with a 5 and a 1. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. The number 59 tells us that we have 5 sets of 10 and 9 units more. After 59, we'll have 6 sets of 10. When we have 6 sets of 10, we have 60. 60. 60 is written with a 6 and a 0. The 6 tells us we have 6 sets of 10. The 0 tells us we have 0 units more. 6 sets of 10 is 60. 60. To count from 60, we simply add the number of units. We'll count these together. Point to the number 61 on the top of the screen. 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. The number 69 tells us that there are 6 sets of 10 and 9 units more. After 69, we'll have 7 sets of 10. 7 sets of 10 is the number 70, 70. The number 70 is written with a 7 and a 0. The 7 tells us that there are 7 sets of 10. The 0 tells us that there are 0 units more. 7 sets of 10 is 70, 70. To count from 70, we simply add the number of units. We'll count them together. Point to the number 71 at the top of the screen. 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79. The number 79 tells us there are 7 sets of 10 and 9 units more. 79. After the number 79, we'll have 8 sets of 10. 8 sets of 10 gives us the number 80. 80. The number 80 is written with an 8 and a 0. The 8 tells us we have 8 sets of 10. The 0 tells us there are no units more. 8 sets of 10 is 80. 80. To count from 80, we simply add the number of units. We'll count them together here. Point to the number 81 at the top of the screen. 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. The number 89 tells us there are 8 sets of 10 and 9 units more. 89. After 89, we'll have 9 sets of 10. 9 sets of 10 gives us the number 90. 90. 90 is written with a 9 and a 0. The 9 tells us there are 9 sets of 10. And the 0 tells us there are no units more. 9 sets of 10 is 90. 90. To count from 90, we simply add the number of units. Let's count these together and finish up. Point to the number 91 on the top. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. The number 99 tells us there are 9 sets of 10 and 9 units more. 99. In this lesson, we've learned that to count from 0 all the way up to 99, we simply need to count the number of tens and add the number of units. The most important thing for you to remember after this lesson are the names for the different tens. Let's name them together. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Let's do that one more time. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. If you remember the tens here, all you'll have to do is add the number of units, and you can count any number from 0 all the way up to 99. In our next lesson, we'll learn what comes next. How about some Latin? Let's review together the Roman numbers we've learned so far. Let's count them together. Unus, duo, tres, quatuor, quinque, sex, septem, octo, novem, decem, undecim, duodecim, tredecim, quatuordecim, quindecim, sedecim, septendecim, duodeviginti, undeviginti, viginti. We learned that the Latin name for the number 20 was viginti. Viginti represents 2 sets of 10, just like the English number 20. Now let's learn how to count from viginti, just as we did from 20 in English. Counting with Roman numbers is exactly the same as counting with English numbers. We state the number of sets of 10 and the number of units. Let's begin counting after 20. Viginti unus is 21. Viginti duo is 22. Viginti tres is 23. Viginti quatuor is 24. Viginti quinque is 25. Viginti sex is 26. Viginti septem is 27. Duodetriginta is 28, or 2 from 30. Undetriginta is 29, or 1 from 30. You see, it works just as in English. In English, when we have 3 sets of 10, we say that there are 30. The Latin for 30 is triginta. Triginta. 3 sets of 10 is triginta. To count from triginta is very simple. We simply count triginta unus, triginta duo, triginta tres, triginta quatuor, triginta quinque, and so on, just as we learned for viginti before. 3 sets of 10, or 30, is triginta. In English, when we have 4 sets of 10, we say that we have 40. The Latin for 40 is quadraginta. Quadraginta. To count from quadraginta is very simple. We simply say quadraginta unus, quadraginta duo, quadraginta tres, quadraginta quatuor, and so on, just as we would in English. 4 sets of 10, or 40, is quadraginta. You may have noticed that the symbol for quadraginta was made up of an X and an L. That L is a new Roman numeral that we haven't seen before. The Roman numeral L is the symbol for quinquaginta. If we have 5 sets of 10 in English, we say 50. The Latin number for 50 is quinquaginta. Quinquaginta. Quinquaginta is symbolized by the letter L. 5 sets of 10, 50, quinquaginta. To count from quinquaginta is very simple. Quinquaginta unus, quinquaginta duo, quinquaginta tres, and so on, just as before. 50 is quinquaginta. In English, if we have 6 sets of 10, we say that we have 60. In Latin, sexaginta is the equivalent of 60. 6 sets of 10 is sexaginta. To count from sexaginta is very simple. We say sexaginta unus, sexaginta duo, sexaginta tres, and so on, just as before. 6 sets of 10, 60, sexaginta. If we have 7 sets of 10 in English, we say that there are 70. In Latin, the number 70 is named Septuaginta. Septuaginta. 7 sets of 10 is Septuaginta. Counting from Septuaginta is very simple. We say Septuaginta unus, Septuaginta duo, Septuaginta tres, and so on, just as before. 7 sets of 10 is 70, or in Latin, Septuaginta. In English, if we have 8 sets of 10, we say there are 80. In Latin, the number 80 is named octaginta. Octaginta. 8 sets of 10 is octaginta. Counting from octaginta is very simple. We simply say octaginta unus, octaginta duo, octaginta tres, octaginta quatuor, and so on, just as before. 8 sets of 10 is 80, or octaginta. When we have 9 sets of 10 in English, we call it 90. In Latin, the name for 90 is nonaginta. Nonaginta. 9 sets of 10, or 90, is nonaginta. Counting from nonaginta is very simple. We simply say nonaginta unus, nonaginta duo, nonaginta tres, and so on, just as before. Well, now you should be able to count all the way up to 99. And that's a lot of information, so let's stop here. Now it's time to study. Go back through your lesson and learn all of the numbers in English and in Latin. Complete your worksheets and then take your examination. We hope you've enjoyed this lesson in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Petty School Arithmetic program. For more resources from the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, visit us online at classicalliberalarts.com. God bless.